Okay, hi guys. So, in today's class, we're going to look at would rather and would rather not, relative pronouns as linking words, and the third thing is, third thing that we're going to look at today is prepositional pronouns as linking words as well. Okay, those are the three things that we're going to focus on today. My goodness, where is my title here? Yeah, participle clauses. So we're going to look at would rather not. Hi guys. Relative clauses and participle clauses as linking words. Okay, just really quickly, I wanted to review something from yesterday. It was a question that was a bit difficult. So we were practicing with I wish, okay? And it was public transport isn't reliable in my area. Good evening, George Sand. And the answer was, I wish public transport were more reliable in my area. And I made a TikTok on this yesterday for you. So the best answer for your exam would be to say were. Okay, use the past subjunctive. However, in daily speech, it is accepted now as well to say was. Okay, so I just wanted to confirm that because it was a doubt that a lot of people had yesterday. Okay, so off we go. Our first topic is would rather and would rather not. I introduced it yesterday. Hello, Ines. So, almost midnight. Not quite. Tránawa, hey! A bit of Irish from George Sand there. Okay, now we're going to look at another structure that often causes problems for advanced students, which is would rather. Okay, so most students learn that would rather means would prefer. Basically, it's like this, okay? And in most situations, this is true. In fact, native speakers often use the two interchangeably. So we can say would rather, would prefer is fine. The main difference is not the meaning but the grammar. So let's compare these sentences. I'd rather work for an organization that values innovation. We saw this yesterday. But if we use prefer, we need to use to plus infinitive. I'd prefer to work for an organization that values innovation. Would you rather Ireland or Spain in the World Cup or to live? Spain did very well yesterday. Did anybody see the match? Hello, Mr. Foster. Yeah, I'm happy to be here too. Did anybody see the match yesterday? Ireland versus Portugal. Penaldo was there. I felt a bit sorry for him, to be honest. Okay, I would rather the weather in Spain, anyway, for sure. Hello, Carola. Hey. So, both express exactly the same preference. However, after would rather, we use the bare infinitive without to, whereas after would prefer, we use the to infinitive. Okay? Hey, Diabowska. You didn't feel sorry for him at all, no. I was supporting Spain, eh? I was supporting Spain. And most of my students were supporting Spain too. So, yeah. But sure, God love him. No? He lives for the World Cup. Now compare them. So, I prefer working for organizations that value innovation. Here, prefer is not part of the structure would prefer. Instead, it describes a general preference rather than a choice in a particular situation. So remember yesterday we said, like, Vicky, would you rather tea or coffee? I'd rather coffee now. No, I'd rather tea now. But in general, I prefer coffee. Okay? So the second area that often causes confusion is the subject. Now, this is the new bit for today that I think is really important. And this is where most people make mistakes. Okay? Mr. Foster, I would rather I didn't miss yesterday's live stream. Oh, you'd have to say that I would have rathered not. miss. Yeah. Hello, Irina. Hey. Okay, so here we go. If the subject stays the same, we use would rather and bare infinitive. Okay? We love to make mistakes. Yeah. Okay, would rather plus bare infinitive. So for example, I'd rather stay home. I'd rather stay home. So I'm talking about me. So this, I use the bare infinitive, no to. But look at this one. She'd rather leave early, right? So she is doing the leaving. This is what she would rather. So we use the bare infinitive. Hello, Cassia. So those two we understand, right? Now, however, if we want another person to do something, the structure changes. So this is like the alarm here, okay? In this case, we have would rather with a different subject, and we need to use the past simple. I'm going to put this in large. This is very important, okay? Look at this, look. I'd rather you. So now it's the different subject from the person being affected. And in this case, we need to use the past simple. So this is the really difficult point here. If the subject changes, the subject of the verb and the subject of the sentence, then we need to use the past simple. Okay? So this is the part here that we need to remember. Would rather plus subject, we need to use the past simple. Okay? I agree with that sentence. Oh, you'd rather we arrived a little earlier. Sorry. Today was a very, very busy day. Really, really busy day. So, we'd rather, now look, we'd rather, so that's us, and then we're speaking about our clients. So it's a different people here. So we need to use the past simple. Okay? And we demonstrate this difference using difference in space and time using the past simple. Never give up. Hey! Okay, so although we're using the past simple, we are not talking about the past. Same as we spoke about, like, I wish. Is it polite? This, using rather? Yes, super polite. Rather is super polite. Super polite, yeah. We were saying yesterday, I wish and if only, and it's time, and it's high time, and all of these go with the past simple. That's why I'm continuing on with would rather, because we also do would rather with the past simple, same as I wish, if only, it's time, and it's high time. They all go with the past simple, but it's not talking about the past, okay? Is there a similar structure with prefer to use the past simple? Oh my God, you guys always ask such good questions. Yes, it's the same. It's the same with prefer. Yeah. I'd prefer you went home now. Yeah, it would be the same. That's a really good question, right? In fact, I'm going to add it in here for my review. Right? And I can put your name to give you kudos. But how am I going to... I've got it all now in pink. I'll put it in purple. Okay. So although we're using the past simple, we are not talking about the past. Like I wish and it's high time, the past simple expresses a preference about the present or future. To make the sentence negative, simply add not. For example, I'd rather not discuss the matter until we've reviewed all the evidence. Okay? Hello, Blueberry. Hi. Tomorrow I have an exam, an English exam, and I saw your live stream, quite interesting for me. That's awesome. You're welcome, Blueberry. I'd prefer you went home. I'd prefer... No to. Yeah, no to. I'd prefer you went home. No to. That's a really good point. I'll put it here. I'd prefer you went home. Yeah, no to. No to home. We never say go to home. Okay? Ines, I'd rather you didn't pick pink, but another colour instead. My eyes can't take it, sorry. Sorry, I put the pink to make sure that I come back to this because it's really important. Sorry, it is a bit like, it's a bit shocking, alright. It's a bit much. Hello, TK. TK is in Thailand. TK, I was in Thailand 2 years ago. Which part of Thailand are you from? No problem, Guerrera. Ines, yellow, but I have a yellow everywhere. Are you a native speaker? No, I'm not. I'm not a native speaker, no. Who wants to be a native speaker? Okay, so to make the yeah, add not. For the exam, remember that would rather has two patterns. If the subject stays the same, use the bare infinitive. If the subject changes, use the past simple. This is the part you need to remember. Green, you would like green here. Come on. Luminous green, right? This is one of the most frequently tested aspects of the structure and one of the easiest mistakes to avoid once you recognize the pattern. So this is really important for exams or whatever. This green much better? Yeah? Okay. Cool. Ali Marden, hello. I'd rather you didn't do stream so late because I'm falling asleep. Oh, I'm sorry. Today was a really long day. Really, very long day. Honestly. I didn't have time before now. You know? Sorry about that. It is, I know it's a bit late, but I didn't want to skip it, you know? Okay, quiz time for I'd rather, right? Number 1, complete the second sentence using would rather. So, I'd prefer the recruitment panel to consider my professional experience before making a final decision. We have to put in would rather. Thanks, Cordelia. I wish no native speaker would reach a success. George said. That's terrible. I'm going to, yeah, I was thinking of getting like some face paint and putting 2 stripes here, but then I was afraid I would offend somebody. You know? Okay, what do you guys think? Anybody know the answer? Here. So I prefer the recruitment panel to consider my professional experience before making a final decision. Ali Mardan, you guys are my dear students. My bad. You made a mistake. Okay. Anybody want to try the answer? Thank you, Cassia. I'd rather the recruitment team panel considered. Excellent, well done. Good job, Cassia. I'd rather the recruitment panel considered my professional experience before making a final decision. You got it. Yeah, well done. I would rather the recruitment panel considered my professional experience. Good job, Cassia, well done. Okay, hey Miriam, reach success. Okay, number 2, complete the second sentence using would rather not. So I'd prefer not to discuss the proposed merger until all financial data has been analysed. Let me put this down for you guys a little bit. Okay. So, I'd prefer not to discuss the proposed merger until all the financial data has been analysed. Good job, Ines. That's correct. Well done. Super. What about this one? Hey, meme. What's up? You need to put the subject, Irina. You need to put the subject because it's a different subject, you see. Merger. I prefer not to discuss the proposed merger. One second. Because with rather we say not didn't, we say not, Irina. Mr. Foster, I'd rather not discuss. Good job. Mr. Foster, you got it. Guerrero, you got it. I'd rather not discuss. That's it. Brilliant. Well done. Almardan, where are you from? I'm from Ireland. Meme, I'd rather not discuss the proposed merger. Good job. Well done. You got it. Yeah. Good job, guys. Well done. So, Irina, instead of saying didn't, you just, for negative here, say I would rather not or I'd rather not. Mayram, I would rather not discuss the proposed merger until all the financial data has been analysed. Good job. Well done. Hey Rita. Happy Tuesday. I would rather not discuss the proposed merger until the financial data. Good job, Ines. Well done. I'd rather not discuss. Good job, Cassia. That's it. Rather not discuss it, but good job, Irina. That's it. You got it. Well done. Hey Nordic. Hello. Thanks, Rita. Okay. Number 3. Complete the second sentence using would rather. So I'd prefer my colleagues, okay, to raise any concerns before the proposal is submitted. Sorry, meme. I'm sorry it's so late. Today was a really long day. Really long day. And then I spent over 1 hour preparing the notes for today. And then I had to make a phone call. A difficult phone call. It was a really long day. I had class until, what time was it? 7, or I can't remember, 7 I think. And then I ate something. I spent 1 hour working on this, maybe a bit more. I had to make a phone call, and now I'm here. Okay, so sorry about that. Yeah, I would prefer not to be so late also, but it was this or nothing. So, 1 second. I'd prefer my colleagues to raise. So, I'd rather they raised or my colleagues raised. Very good. Any concerns? I would rather my colleagues raised. Good job, Guerrero. Good job, Mr. Foster. Mr. Foster's raised with ed in the past. When the subjects are different, there are 2 subjects in the sentence. You need to put the verb in the past simple. I'd rather I'd rather my colleagues raised. I'd rather my colleagues raised. Raised. Rise, rose, raised. Rise. No, sorry, my colleagues raised. Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's true actually. Rise, rose, risen. No, but it's raise. It's not rise. It's a different verb. I was totally confused. We have this verb is rise, but there's another verb, it's raise. And raise is regular. It's rise, rose, risen. Rise, you're thinking of rise, rose, risen. But this is raise, raised, raised. Raise, raised, raised. They're 2 different verbs, okay? Rice, no. I ate rice yesterday. Awesome, Mr. Foster. No problem. Rita, I would rather my colleagues raised. You got it, Rita. Well done. Raised, yeah. I would rather my colleagues raise some concerns. Well done, Mayram. Raised, Irina. Good job. I would prefer my... Rim, I would prefer my colleagues raised. Yeah, we're practicing. I would rather. Rim, good job. I would rather my colleagues. Yeah, and I told you about this, Irina. Did you understand, Irina? This one? And everybody got it, yeah. Mayram, good job. Well done. And Ines got it. Awesome. I would rather. Mariar, no 2. It's after rather, you must put infinitive. I would rather raise or not raise. Or I would rather they raised. Hey Cole, what's up? You haven't missed much. If not, I will beat her after lessons. Oh my goodness, who are you going to beat? I've missed something now in the chat because it's become violent and I don't know how. You got it, Irina? Awesome. Hey Mayram. Yes, this isn't from the C1 book. This is from the C1 book. We are just at the very end quiz. Yeah, okay. Irina, you're going to beat Irina? Meme, not much. Okay, cool. So, next one. Right, number 4. Complete the second sentence using would rather. So, I'd prefer to accept the position after I've had time to consider the offer. I'd prefer to accept the position after I've had time to consider the offer. Cole, you can use one or the other, only rather. Just don't use rather and prefer in the same sentence because they mean the same thing. Special message for Arena Ines, okay. I would rather my colleagues be ready for the external auditor. Oh my goodness. Maria, I would rather accept. Good job. So, I'd prefer to accept the position after I've had time to consider the offer. I'd rather accept the position after. Very good. Maria, good job. Mr. Foster, well done. Guerrera, well done. Good job, Meme. Good job, Cassia. Good job, Rita. Good job, Irina. What does would rather mean? It means I would prefer. What's your first language, Almi Mardan? Is it Spanish? I don't think so. Because if it's not Spanish, I can't translate it. Rim, I would rather accept. Rim. It's I would rather accept. I would rather accept. Good job, Maria. Well done. I would rather accept the position. Well done, Cole. You got it. I'd rather accept, Mayram. Azerbaijan. So I can't speak. What language do people speak in Azerbaijan? Because I can't speak that language. I'd rather accept the position after I've had time to consider the offer. Good job, Ines. Okay. Awesome. Don't beat me, please. I almost slept. Oh no. Turkish. I can't speak Turkish. Can anybody speak Turkish and translate this for Ali there? Rita. Rita, is that Turkish? No, it's Arabic. No? Okay. Number 5. So this is would rather accept. Number 5. I almost scrolled to the answer. My goodness. Okay, but I didn't. Complete the second sentence using would rather. So the director would prefer the negotiations to continue in private. The director, now in this case, negotiations, we have, it's different, okay? Subcol. Yeah, forensics kind of jumps in and out, doesn't he? Meme, are you pretending that you can speak Turkish there? Merhaba. Is that okay. I know only one Turkish word. It's indirim. Okay. The director would rather continue the negotiations. The director would rather continue the negotiations in private. The director. Would rather the negotiations. The directored rather the negotiations. Cassia, you got director would rather negotiate. Good job, Cassia got it. The directors would rather the negotiations continued in private. Director would rather the negotiations continued. But also, Guerrero, I think you could, I'm just realizing now, you could also say the director would rather continue the negotiations in private. Depending on where you put it. Director would rather continue the negotiations in private. Or the director would rather the negotiations continued in private. Hello, Clary. You would rather consider the negotiations to continue. Miriam, not consider, would rather to. No, Maria, you can't put to after rather. You can't put to. Mario, you corrected yourself. Would rather continue the. You must put the article, the negotiations. Director would rather continue negotiations in private. Good job, Mr. Foster. You got it. Mayram, the director would rather the negotiations continued in private. Irina, well done. I said to. Yes. You said to. Oh my God. The director would rather have the negotiations continued in private. You can't use have. The director would rather have you'd have to say, the director would rather have the negotiations continue in private. Because this is rather have. Oh my God. That's rather have, which I didn't cover this, and that's a good point, Meme, but after would rather have, you need to put to. The director would rather have the negotiations continue in private. This is your sentence is actually correct, but it's not in the C1 course, and it's different from the sentence. It's using the passive. Our principal would prefer. Oh my god. So this grammar is gonna kill our speaking. What do you mean kill your speaking? Cole, let me see. I can't find Cole's answer. The director would rather continue negotiations in private. Yes. Cole, where's your answer? You said, did you get it right? And I can't find your name. Here you go. The director would rather continue the negotiations in private. Yes, Cole. It's an example that I didn't think of, actually. But you can say that too. The one that I put was... would rather the negotiations continued. Right? But, honestly, you could say that. Would rather continue the negotiations in private. Yeah, you can also say this. Cool. I didn't expect that one. Number 6, complete the sentence using would rather not. So we'd prefer not to make any assumptions before the investigation has been completed. Hello, Maria. Maria, have you corrected exams? Because a lot of people make mistakes with this. For C1. In fact, B2 students rarely use it. So I'm surprised. But it's from the C1 book. So it's in the C1 course anyway, Maria. So, I mean, Maria, are you mixing up with rather than? Rather than is easier. But this is a different point. You know, hello, Maria Diaz. We would rather not make any assumptions. We would rather not make. Welp, we are also bad. We would rather not make any assumptions before the investigation is being completed. We would rather not make. Very good, guys. Well done. Super. I want to increase so from B1 to B2. Oh, yeah, good luck. We'd rather not make any. Good job. Rim, well done. Good job, guys. We'd rather not make. Maria laughs in Spanglish. We'd rather not make any assumptions. Yeah. We'd rather not make any assumptions. We'd rather not make any assumptions. Brilliant. Awesome. Number 7, we need to use would rather not. So I'd prefer not to interrupt the presentation while the speaker is explaining the results. I'd prefer not to interrupt the presentation while the speaker is explaining the results. So the presentation while the speaker is explaining the results. I'd rather not interrupt the presentation. Well done, meme. I'd rather not make, well done, meme, you got it. I'd rather not interrupt. Good job, Maria. I'd rather not interrupt. Well done, Cole. Good job. You got it. That's it. Good job, Lara. Would rather not interrupt. I'd rather not interrupt. Good job, Miriam. Well done. You got it. I'd rather not interrupt. Yeah, brilliant, Irina. Good job, Cassia. Awesome. Mr. Foster, super. Well done. Good job. Rather not interrupt. And there's one more. I think it's just, whoops. Almost one more. With, again, would rather not. Okay, just to solidify this point. So I'd prefer my colleagues not to disclose the results until the report has been published. I'd prefer my colleagues not to disclose the results until the report has been published. Remember to plug the stores tonight. What do you mean plug the stores? Plug the stores tonight. I don't get it. I'd rather my colleagues not to, no meme, there's no to. Maria, no to. Everybody's putting to, there's no to. Stories, the stories idea. Okay. Plug to, okay, yeah. Okay. I'd rather my colleagues didn't disclose, rather my colleagues not disclose the results. Good job, Irina, you got it. I would rather my colleagues not disclose. Well done. Good job. Yeah. Not disclose and didn't disclose as it's didn't disclose, because colleagues is different, you see. So we have to use the past simple. This is why this is a trick question. This is a trick question because I'd is different from my colleague. So the subject is not the same person with the verb. So we need to use the past simple. I'd rather my colleagues didn't disclose. Mr. Foster, you got it. But it sounds so natural, I know. I'd rather my colleagues not disclose. I think people would say it, to be honest. I think people would say it. But technically the correct answer is this. Okay? I'm sure they say that. I'd rather my colleagues not disclose. You see, no, I mean, no, because but I'm sure people do say it, honestly, but the grammar, it must be past simple because this is the I'd and the colleagues are different. So we're supposed to use the past simple. I'd rather my colleagues not visit the pub before work. Oh my goodness. If we put the answer, it depends, trick question, why? Because I guess they have up here would, they have not. It depends on if you're speaking, I think they wouldn't mind. But if you put this in the sentence transformation, you'll probably lose 1 point. I think. Bloody grammar, I know. Okay, on to, we'll skip this part. Basically, this is the most important thing that we've seen is this. The most difficult thing where people make mistakes is this, okay? This is the speaking. We probably won't have time today, I don't think, but we can come back tomorrow. So topic 2 is linking ideas with relative clauses. Does anybody remember what relative clauses are? Can you put some relative clauses in the chat? What hour tomorrow? Tomorrow, I think, will be an easier day for me. So maybe at 4. Maybe at 4 I can do it tomorrow. We'll see. Good job, Lara, you got it. Yeah, Mr. Foster, good job. Lara, you got it. Marie, you got it. Guerrero, you got it. Mr. Foster, well done. Santa Claus. Maybe 4 o'clock tomorrow, Meme. I'm going to try and do 4. Okay? Yuka, the girl who is my friend. Who's your friend? We're all friends here. Okay. So, one of the features that distinguishes a C1 speaker from a B2 speaker is the ability to link ideas naturally instead of producing several short repetitive sentences. So this is true. When you do your writing for C1, they do expect you to create or craft longer sentences. So to create longer sentences, we need to use things like linking ideas with these relative clauses. Okay? Hello, Sunla. Yeah, who's, what, when, where. That's it. Okay? In which also. I thought we were talking about giving an example of relative clauses. Oh, okay, sorry, Yuka. The girl who is my friend. Good job, you got it. Hey, Alvin. How's it going? What's up? Sorry we're a bit late today. Better late than never. So, compare these two examples. The researcher published a report. The report received international recognition. So, both sentences are okay. Okay, both sentences are fine. It's okay for a B1 student, it's very good, even for a B2. But for C1, we want to join these two sentences together. Okay? Good, thank you. I have been along. Oh, nice. That's so lovely. Relative clauses, which are commonly used, will be taught tomorrow. Really? Taught tomorrow? Vicky, do you know what scribble is? Yes, of course I know what a scribble is. Is that a trick question? Of course I know what a scribble is. The game. I don't know. The researcher published a report which received international recognition or international reclaim. Well done. Brilliant. A scribble is like a doodle, bro. Yeah. I don't know what the game is though. Okay. A more natural way to express the same idea is this. The researcher published a report which received international recognition. Awesome. So both versions have the same meaning, but the second sounds much more fluent because the ideas are connected into one single sentence. We do this using relative clauses. How can I check whether I am B2 student or C1? Do an exam. Do an exam in your house and you can mark it yourself and you can check how many answers you got correct. That's the best way to check which level you are. Do an exam in your house or on the computer. A relative clause gives us more information about a noun and avoids unnecessary repetition. This is very important. So with these, we're avoiding repeating ourselves. It usually begins with a relative pronoun or relative adverb, right? Where do I find the exam meme? You can find any. I have loads of exams, but you can find an exam on your on the internet if you want. Book a lesson with Vicky and see what she says. Okay, the most. Can you please say if there is any difference between who and whom? Yes, the whom is more formal and it's referring to the object of the sentence. Google it. Gerard says, which platform is better to check my level? Any platform is okay. Cambridge. Try a Cambridge exam. Vicky, please can I say something about this example if you keep it up a bit longer? What example? Alvin, I'm lost. Okay. So the most common relative pronouns are who, whom, we got whose. Everybody always forgets whose. Everybody always forgets whose and where. So for things, you can use which or that. Now, this is a tricky one because you can only use that if it's a non-defining sentence or if it's a defining sentence, okay? You can't use that in non-defining sentences. Maria, can we do an exercise of the ones that are multiple choice? Yes, this one is a multiple choice one, the next one I have. This, the people, thing, places, one on screen. This is it. Like an example, like if you're talking about a person like Sarah, Sally, her, she, him, no? Whose is when it belongs to somebody. Whose car is this? That's the man whose car is parked outside my house, for example. Can we all take an exam somehow? Non-defining clause, yeah. Yes, if your students like journalism, then this is exactly the same as the formula to write. News stories, it's called the inverted pyramid. Have a Google Images. Okay. Are you a journalist, Alvin? That's interesting. Time, so places where, time when, reason why. For example, I met a scientist, full stop. She had developed a revolutionary vaccine. So we want to put these two sentences together to make this more advanced. Okay? So we'll say, I met a scientist who, so the who in this sentence is referring to the scientist. I met a scientist who had developed a revolutionary vaccine. So you'll notice that if I use who, referring to the scientist, now I don't need to repeat she. So I'm going to eliminate the pronoun from this sentence. I think you guys know that, right? So instead of repeating scientist, we replace it with who. There are two types of relative clause. So we have defining relative clause. So this identify exactly which person or thing we're talking about. So the information is essential. Let me see. How do you pronounce? Okay, Yuka, I normally say why. I don't know why, but always when I pronounce WH, I do kind of like a wh. Don't ask me why, but I say why. I guess some people would say why. No, why. I say why. Sometimes, Cole, I agree with you, honestly. I know it can be a bit frustrating sometimes, but for me it's fun. I love reading the comments. You knew this scientist, George Sand. You could just say the letter Y. His name, okay. Hello, White Diamond. Scientist. By Coldplay, love Coldplay. I agree, not one's like journalism. Yeah, Maria, it's a good point. Yeah, I know. I did pronounce it Yuka, I did. I do say why. Well spotted, I do say why. It's a me thing. I also say any. Instead of any, I say any. And I say many instead of many. So, I met a scientist who developed a vaccine hailed as revolutionary. And now we know how to pronounce it. Okay. There are lots of people who like creative writing in here. I don't see your logic. Okay. So, applicants who submit their forms after the deadline will not be considered. These clauses do not have commas. So, if we just focus on this for a second, right? Defining clause. I like to think of the word definition. Think of the word definition. So, in case you don't know, when you look in the dictionary and you search for a word, for example, hat, no? When you see the definition, this is the minimum amount of words that we need to understand what this item is. No more and no less. There are no extra words, but it's the minimum amount of words to describe what this is. This is the idea of a definition. So when something is defining, it means that all of that information is necessary to understand the sentence. I can't remove part of the information because then I'm not going to understand the sentence, or the sentence is going to be different. Okay? So that's really the big difference. If something is defining, it means all of the information in the sentence is necessary. When it's non-defining, we put commas, 2 commas or 1 comma, because we include extra information. But actually, I can eliminate this information and I still understand the sentence. Okay? So this is non-defining. There's extra information which is not essential. So if it's defining, all of the information is essential. If it's non-defining, there's some extra information, so the sentence is longer, so we have commas. That's the big difference. I hope you understand that now. Okay? Easy peasy, you got it? Okay, that's cool. All right. So, these clauses do not have commas, right? So these are shorter sentences. Shorter sentences are more for speaking, so therefore they're more informal. So that means in these sentences we can use that, because that is informal. Okay? Okay. So next one is non-defining. So non-defining, this is adding extra information. Okay? Motivator, alligator. Yuka, yeah. I find that telling them it's like what you would see in a dictionary helps a bit. Hello, elbow. Long time no see. The woman that or who lives there has 2 children. Is that correct? That's correct. That's correct. Well done. The woman who lives there has 2 children. The woman that lives there has 2 children. It's correct. Well done. Yeah. My supervisor, who has worked here for 22 years, encouraged me to apply. Now, focus on this sentence. Can you see here we have a comma? 1 comma, 2 comma. So the essential information here is this and this. So really this is all I need to understand the sentence. Look, my supervisor encouraged me to apply. This is the fundamental part of the sentence. This is the defining part. And this part that I have in between the commas, this is like the extra stuff. So I can delete this if I want, it doesn't matter. Okay? No problem. Now, if we remove the relative clause, the sentence still makes sense because we already know who my supervisor is. Okay? These clauses must all be separated by commas. So always if it's a non-defining clause, you need to have commas in here if it's non-defining. There's going to be 1 comma or 2 commas. At C1 level, relative clauses are not just a grammar point, they're a way of making your writing and speaking sound more natural, fluent and sophisticated by linking ideas together instead of presenting them as separate sentences. Okay? I know a beautiful, smart woman that has 2 children. Yeah, that or who. Hello, Lucia. You're Maria. Okay. I think I use them interchangeably. Elbow, the woman. You can use them interchangeably, elbow and Alvin, as long as it's a defining sentence. You can't use it in non-defining interchangeably. In non-defining, we can't use that. And that's the point. Okay? So, who, defining, the researcher who developed the groundbreaking treatment received international recognition. So, grammar, who identifies exactly which researcher we mean. The information is essential, so there are no commas. Okay? I can't delete any part of this sentence. They're all essential. And then, when you can skip that, that is even worse. Oh, Yuka, yeah. But I have a trick for this, Yuka. There is a trick for this one that I teach my students, and they always get all the answers correct. Because I have a really, really good trick for this. Maybe you know it already, you're a teacher. I'm going to write it down. There is a trick for omitting who. I'll tell you about it after. I didn't put it in this notes, actually. Vicky, can you please say defining sentence meaning? Yeah, defining is the shortest possible sentence. So you need all of the information. What is groundbreaking? Guerrera, do you know when, for example, the ayuntamiento, the town hall, they're going to build a new building? No? The first day that they start the building, they normally go with the mayor, and he has like a hammer, un martillo, and he like hits the ground with the hammer to symbolize the start of the building in the area. That was the original groundbreaking. If you're going to build a house, you have like a ceremony at the start, and you hit the ground with the hammer, and this symbolizes the start of the construction. So now, figuratively, we use this for a treatment that has never been seen before. Like a groundbreaking discovery. Do you get it? I hope you get it. It's high time, Jordan. It's not in. It's high time. Do you use a hammer for that? I think they use a hammer. You can Google it, but I think they use a hammer. In the term of groundbreaking, it's to break the ground. A hammer or Kango hammer or something. Yuka, it's mainly on who is performing the action, who is the object. Yeah, but my students don't tend to understand that. They don't tend to understand that. So, what I do for this, so for example, in this sentence, we can't omit it, okay? Look here. Who can't be omitted? Yuka, I just tell my students that if they see a verb after the relative pronoun, they can't omit the relative pronoun. This is my trick. Spill the tea, spill the beans. This is my trick. If they see a verb after the relative pronoun, they can't omit the relative pronoun. On the contrary, if they see after the relative pronoun a name or he, she, they can omit it. And I just tell them this, and then they can do the exam. Did you get it, Greta? Did you explain? Did I understand? I think that's pretty much what I understand by groundbreaking, where it came from anyway, originally. Okay, next one. So, non-defining, Dr. Patel, who developed the groundbreaking treatment, received international recognition. So again, the main part of the sentence is Dr. Patel received international recognition. This is the sentence. Dr. Patel received international recognition. This is the important bit I want to say. Right? And then this is the extra bit. Now, I can manipulate this sentence. I could say, for example, Dr. Patel, who received international recognition, developed the groundbreaking treatment. But then, the most important part for me is the fact that Dr. Patel developed groundbreaking treatment. So it's the things that are outside of the commas is what I want to focus on. That's what I think is more important in the sentence. Okay? Hello, Musiela. I'm doing very well, thank you. I hope you're doing well too. Yuka, is it the same with reported speech? I don't think so. I think this trick only works for defining and non-defining. I can check later, but I only teach that trick for omitting with defining and non-defining. Because I know that sometimes there can be problems with skipping that in she said, she liked. Ah, yeah. I think you can always skip that, honestly. Like you can say she said she liked, no problem. She said she liked, you can say. I think you can always skip that in reported speech, to be honest. Okay. Next one is which. So the proposal, which sparked considerable controversy, was eventually withdrawn. Okay. Yeah, it's presented as an error to skip that. Really? Oh, no. Here, no, because in all my books, you always have that in commas. I can maybe find it. It's in commas, in brackets. So you can always skip it, I think. 1 second. Just to, yeah, look, can you see? Can you see how they have that in commas? In commas, in brackets. Oh, I hope you've got the mirror, like, so it always appears in brackets. So that means you can say it or not say it. Yeah. What topic is this? We're talking about relative pronouns used as linkers. Because it's more formal. The longer the sentence, the more formal. So using that maybe more formal. Sorry, Gare, the mirror effect, I know. But I think you got the point, no? That's always not. You're talking about exams? Yeah. I mean, I think as far as I'm concerned, any student who said to me, hey, it's okay, I would have to say, well, yes, you are correct, you know? Hello, Nadia. I appreciate your ideas. Nadia, that's so sweet. Thank you. Thank you. I learn a lot on TikTok too, from a lot of people who put out useful information. So, which identifies exactly which proposal we are referring to. The information is essential, so there are no commas, okay? And sometimes instead of which, we can use that if it's defining. Not if it's non-defining, but sometimes we can use it if it's defining. Non-defining, the proposal, comma, which sparked considerable controversy, was eventually withdrawn. So which adds additional information about the proposal, the sentence remains complete without the relative clause, so commas are required. Okay? That, the policy that generated widespread criticism has now been abandoned. So that introduces a defining relative clause and identifies which policy we mean. It cannot, this is the important point. It cannot be used in non-defining sentences. Okay? So the policy that generated widespread criticism has now been abandoned. This is incorrect. Okay? Never use that in a non-defining relative clause. Use which instead. Okay? And then where, which people are always forgetting. Hello, Lucina. I do give private lessons, Lucina. You can send me a WhatsApp. The link, you can check my website for my WhatsApp number. I do give private lessons. So where is the one? Everybody forgets this one. Defining the laboratory where the experiment was conducted has recently been renovated. So grammar, where identifies exactly which laboratory we mean. The information is essential, so there are no commas. And then non-defining, the laboratory in Geneva, comma, where the experiment was conducted, comma, has recently been renovated. Okay? So where adds extra information about the laboratory, the sentence is complete without the relative clause, so commas are required. Okay? 1 sec now. The robot appeared. Oh no. Unable to verify. 1 second. Okay. Now, abandoned drills was conducted by chief officer. Where's your relative pronoun, George Sands? Guerrera, no commas, don't eat in Spanish. Yes, it's true, no commas. That's very funny. I'm going to write this down. So, guys, that's quite funny. No commas. With double M or only one M, no? It would be like this. Así, no? No commas. It means don't eat in Spanish. That's really funny. You have class of A2. Only private classes or DR. On TikTok, the lives are all advanced. Only one M, yes, yeah, okay. But it's still really cool. Okay, thank you. Where are you from? Where are you from? I'm Irish. Lucina, I'm Irish. I'm from Cork. Where are you from? Yeah, I'm from Cork. Okay, next one. In which, guys? So this only comes up in the C1 book, right? In which. It often means where. It's very similar to where, okay? Lucina from Poland, yeah? We've got lots of people from Poland in the group. One of my students was working in Poland last week. She was in Rzeszów, Poznan, and Warsaw. Yeah. Okay, so in which, defining. The circumstances in which the negotiations took place remain unclear. So the circumstances in which the negotiations took place remain unclear. In which is a formal alternative to where or a preposition and relative pronoun structure. It defines which circumstances we mean. Non-defining, the negotiations in which several key issues were resolved lasted more than 12 hours. And grammar, in which introduces additional information in a non-defining relative clause, commas are required. Okay, Nadia's from Poland too. Hey, Fluent BR. Cassie is also from Poland. Yeah, you guys are so smart. Okay, so who was asking about whom? Somebody was asking about whom. Explain the difference between who and whom. My students always want to know what this is as well. So, defining the diplomat whom the committee appointed has extensive international experience. So, in this case, the committee is the subject, right? Because they're doing the verb. The committee is appointing. Hello, Alina. The committee is appointing. So the diplomat is the object. So when the object is before the relative pronoun, so the relative pronoun is referring to the object of the sentence, that's when we can use whom. I realize that that's a lot to take in. Okay, I know that that's a lot. Hey, Alina. Sorry we're so late today. Better this than nothing. We'll finish up soon. Okay. So whom is the object of the verb and is mainly used in formal English. The clause identifies which diplomat we mean. I know that's a lot of information, guys. Look, that's why the video is on YouTube. So you guys can go back and you can check this out again on YouTube. Listen to what I said a few times. Look, normally this person is the subject of the sentence. Okay, normally. But in this case, the subject of the sentence is the committee. So the relative pronoun is actually referring to the object of the sentence, the diplomat. Right? The whom is not referring to the subject, it's referring to the object. And those are the cases that we can use whom. Okay? I know that's hard. Awesome, Alina. Okay. So, non-defining, on the other hand, Ambassador Lewis, whom the committee appointed last year, has extensive international experience. So same, right? The committee is the subject. Ambassador Lewis is the object. Whom is referring to Ambassador Lewis, so we can use whom. Whom adds extra information and functions as the object of the verb. The sentence remains complete without the clause, so commas are required. Okay? Here's the same answer in plain text. So, not always. This is important for C1, C2 distinction. Okay? Rule number 1. We'll get down here. Rule number 1. When referring to a place, we use where and in which are often interchangeable. So you can remember that where is similar to in which. All right, so when you see in which, usually it's talking about where. Okay, because I know it's a bit intimidating when you see in which. But it generally means where. For example, the hotel where we stayed was excellent, or the hotel in which we stayed was excellent. Right? The city where I grew up has changed dramatically. The city in which I grew up has changed dramatically. So it's the same. Okay? The version with in which is simply more formal. That's the key. Rule number 2. Where only replaces in which or sometimes at which. It cannot replace every preposition plus which. For example, the reason for which he resigned. So the reason in this case, so for which, it's not the same. It only applies to in which or sometimes at which. So be careful with that. It's not all prepositions with which. Only at which and in which mean where. Okay? The reason for which he resigned, yes, not the reason where he resigned, no. The method by which, this is another one. So for which, no, it doesn't mean where. By which, that either. So the method by which the data were analysed, not the method where the data were analysed. The topic about which, no, doesn't mean where we are arguing. The topic where we are arguing, no. So the conditions under which, this is another one, doesn't mean where. All right, just to give you some examples here, the conditions under which the experiment was conducted, not the conditions where the experiment was conducted. Okay, so a useful rule for you guys is where. So in which and sometimes at which. It does not mean for which, by which, about which, under which. Okay, so whenever you can naturally say in the place, you can usually replace where with in which. Okay, that's what they expect for C1, C2. Okay, yeah, so these are perfect because they show for which doesn't work. I put an example then of each one in case you guys were curious, right? For example, for which. The reason for which the committee rejected the proposal remains unclear, right? So we say the reason for something, not the reason in a place. Which and which are homophones. Yeah, they are. Which and which. But they're which and which. Which and which. Which. That's why I pronounce the WH. I say which, not which. I say which. And it's for this. So for me, they're different. Which and which. That's why I have a very strong WH. By which, I wouldn't say by which. You know, I'd say by which. So the innovative method by which the disease was detected has transformed modern medicine. Right? About which, the controversial issue about which the politicians were arguing dominated the debate for hours. Under which, the conditions under which the refugees were forced to live were described as inhumane. Yeah, so there you go. Look where we have enough. In which, at which, yes. For which, by which, about which, under which, no. Okay? So that's what you need to understand for that. Now, I have a mini test. I'm just wondering, do we have time? Do we have time for the mini test? I almost showed the answer. Nobody saw, right? Nobody saw the answer. Okay. Do you want to try the test? Or is everybody wanting to go to bed? Do you want to try? My mind over... Yeah, your mind is overloaded. Oh, yes? What time is it? It's 22:11. Oh my god. 22:11. What does that mean? And Ines sent me a movie. I started watching yesterday. I rented it on Amazon Prime. And I have like a few hours only to finish it. So I must finish it. Can we do it tomorrow? Okay, guys. We can do it tomorrow because it's late, isn't it? It's a bit late. It's a bit late. Well, we did a bit anyway, right? So I'm going to put this video on YouTube. And tomorrow we can do a quick review of this. And we can do that quiz. The quiz with these, okay? Mr. Foster, test to consolidate the material. Yeah, exactly. Test to consolidate the material. Yeah, we can do it tomorrow. Sorry, today was late, guys. It was pretty late, okay? But anyway, and the video is there for anybody who missed it. It's on YouTube, okay? English with Vicky, it's there on YouTube. All right. Thanks so much, guys. It's high time we took the quiz. It's high time we went to bed. Everybody. Oh my God. It's high time we went to bed. Is what it's high time for. Okay? It's high time we all went to bed. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Wait a second, there was a question. Oh, yeah, guys, we spoke about, you guys answered this about when to omit who. All right, guys, thanks so much, and I'll see you tomorrow, okay?